Good evening, everybody, and welcome.
That was
Welcome to
delay.
Wonderful Monday Night. Yeah, it helps if you turn the microphone on and then you can talk. It works a lot easier that way usually. So,
That's interesting. We'll have to try that more often.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, that is if you actually want to hear what we're saying,
Oh, but there
but
is that. Maybe maybe for some folks they'd be like, that it was really nice when they could see us but not hear us. I mean, maybe we are eye candy. We just didn't know it. Probably not.
Yeah.
well, you know what? Everybody's got to be the black licorice of something.
Yeah.
There is that. I was wanting to be one of those little peanut things, those little orange peanutty things that
Oh,
are just
yeah.
Circus peanuts.
yeah, they're just
My mother-in-law loves circus peanuts.
wow. She was like that person, the only person who did, and they made them all for her.
She kept them in business, I think. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh.
yeah. Cubby seems like more of a candy corn person. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
kind of fun.
No.
No, no
Yeah,
candy corn.
Mm-mm.
they were those aren't too bad. I mean, they are not the worst.
I've had them. We recently at a wedding. They had peanuts with them, so they were all mixed up with peanuts, candy corn and peanuts. That is a good mixture. It kind of wasn't
Hmm.
that bad.
Yeah. Sweet and salty. Okay.
Yeah.
I followed. Yeah.
Okay,
By the
well,
way, welcome to DJNTV Candy Connoisseurs.
candy edition. So
Yeah.
so for
Right,
Lou,
right. You thought we were going to do Q&A tonight. No.
we thought we were going to talk
No. Q&A
music.
on candy.
Yeah. So for Luella, I'm talking about my mother-in-law. For Alyssa's graduation, she did an M&M because she was wanting to mess with some of her teachers. So she did M&Ms and Skittles. And you're like,
And they
this
sent
is,
her a bunch of W's.
you think that this would be terrible. It actually tastes like you were eating Tootsie Pops. They were really good. If you get a grape Skittle with an M&M, it was fabulous.
I
You'd
can
have to
see
do them
that
one at a
now.
time then, I guess, right? Or one
Well,
flavor at a
you could
time?
do it. The one flavor at a time was certainly the best, but it's still it worked. And here she was after Cringe Factor, and people were like, "This is great," and they were just mowing down by the handful. So yes, tonight's Candy Talk brought to you by Skittles and M.
I got
There
my
you go.
gold for the night. I'm out.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
thanks.
I'm gonna.
Thanks for
I'm
joining.
definitely gonna have to try that tomorrow. That's all
yeah,
there is to it.
yeah. I was surprised. I
Do
expected,
we?
again, Cringe Factor. It's like, okay, well, when we're done, we can separate them by letters, and have them divided once again. But they did not last. She had these big bags, and they were all gone.
What's the good ratio? 50-50?
That's what she had done. She did with her bag. It just and basically did one of
I mean,
each.
we're thinking like handful. Do we want 50-50,
Yeah.
or do we
No,
want like
I,
two to
I,
one?
it's it's kind of a surprise when you just grab a handful.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
candy talk.
There we go.
Okay, so
Golden.
tonight, guys, we're going
Golden.
to talk. We are going to do question and answer tonight. We're going to be pretty much all of our questions are going to be based around music and situational things that we'll be discussing. We're going to be giving the answers tonight, kind of aiming for a newer or younger DJ. So for those of you who have been in this a long time, there might be some thoughts and things that you'll be like, well, yeah, everybody knows that. Well, that's kind of what tonight's about. Is we want to be creating some answers for someone who's going to be a little bit newer in this that may not have the experience that we have, and they might see things a little bit differently. So we're going to show them what an old person thinks. Right, Cubby?
That's me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you and I are the old guys, and Dan, he's like the young whippersnapper. We remember back when music was on 45s,
Yes.
and they were spinning at more than 45. No, that was a different time. So, gentlemen, if we're ready, we'll get to our first question. Okay, so most of our questions are going to be related with weddings, and the first question is, if a younger DJ would come on, their question would be is, how do you read a crowd at a wedding? What kind of things are you looking for? And guys, we're just going to kind of go back and forth. Cubby, you're in the upper left corner of our screen tonight, so you get to start.
Ah.
What are you looking for when you are at a wedding and you see the crowd, and what kind of keys and such for reading that wedding crowd?
So actually, I do a little at the planning meeting when I talk with the bride and the groom. I'm starting asking questions like, "Is your family heavy in country? Do they like 80s? Are they dancers? Are they not dancers?" So when I go to the wedding to be able to read a crowd, it lets me know. Okay, I know they like pop, and I know like 80s. My aunts love Whitney. So then I kind of know what route to go. So then I start fishing through there, finding out different genres that they like through those decades. But I tried to do it earlier, like I said, the conversation at the planning meeting to kind of get me a feel what they'd like.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So yeah, you're the advance is almost you're giving that precedent over even what you're seeing to a point.
Yeah.
Okay. Dan, what about yourself?
I like to play if they give me the luxury of trying out different genres during cocktail, during dinner. I like to try a bunch of different ones, and during dinner, during cocktails, I'm looking for the head bobs. I'm looking for the toe taps, especially if it's during cocktail and they're out of nowhere, they decided to belt along to the lyrics or even just kind of mouth along to the lyrics. That's giving me a good indication that something's gonna have some promise later. So I'm looking for those times of the nights. Now, once we get into the open dancing, I'm watching the outsides. I'm not watching necessarily. Yeah, I'm watching a little bit of the dance floor, but I'm watching the outskirts to see who's responding and just doesn't necessarily have the courage to come on the floor. And then within that, I'm trying to almost challenge them a little bit because I'll go a little bit more with that genre in the hopes of kind of pulling them a little bit closer. Like, okay, I've hit the right area, I've hit the right decade. Now I've just got to get the song they can't resist. And so I'll start bouncing around to see what might happen there.
So I would have probably answered this a little bit differently several months ago. I would have given it more of a canned answer of, reading the crowd, watching head bobs, as Mikey Mike mentioned. The last probably 4 weddings that we performed here towards the end of the season, the idea of reading the crowd was almost non-existent. We had couples that had the music that they wanted to hear, and as like the last wedding that we did, is the bride was more than happy to come up there, and she's like, "Hey, can you play this song next? Can you play this song next?" And it's her day, and she was out there dancing with her friends. And every time she would change, and she might be playing something that or asking for something that fit, or it might be a complete 180, whatever. We mixed two of those songs, and it because she was out there, she was having a great time. Her friends were out there with her celebrating. There wasn't a reading of the room for anybody but those 10 to 15. And I would say we went a good hour and a half of just playing to those 15 to 20 people that were on the floor. And she was the ringleader and was picking, there was a few situations where she would pick a song and then we'd play something that would fit with it. And then she'd come up and say, then there would be a little bit, and then whatever. We may have 2 songs in a row that would fit with her requested song, but she requested probably 10 songs during that sequence, which is certainly an awful lot. In advance, she really didn't have. She just confirmed that. Would you mind if I came up with, when I had a song idea? No problem. It's your day. Hell, let's go. I'm not going to just say no. So reading the crowd, I think, is an important thing, and the whole idea of what songs would have been popular that they would have been singing along to as teenagers, that kind of mentality, and we've talked about that many times. I think that's a great value, talking in advance as Cubbie did, or Dan, looking and watching the crowd and seeing what is kind of connecting. I guess the point I'm saying is that sometimes it doesn't matter if you need to read the crowd or not, because you've got that bride or groom or couple that are just going to party to everything, and they're going to be throwing things your way and saying, "Hey, mix this in next." Sure, let's do it. And you're going to have a great party, but it's fly by the seat of your pants, and they're going to throw things at you, and you just go with it.
Well, I mean, we often also talk about like the party's going to be where the couple is. So if you're catering to what they're wanting and that's creating that atmosphere on the dance floor, like you can't ask for her to be any closer to the dance floor than on the dance floor.
Exactly.
So if you're wanting to pull people in, that's gonna be a great opportunity. I would be a little cautious of that though. Um, just from the standpoint, like obviously it worked in that situation, but you kind of mentioned like you were just catering those 10 or 15. How many people that were at the wedding, for lack of better terms, got bored, came up, said their goodbyes to them during because they just weren't feeling. Now she was going a couple different directions that maybe helped, but if they're like, I just want to stay in a 2000s hip hop vibe, it might not, it might not appeal to everybody from that standpoint. And so I think sometimes you've got to be a little careful to that, unless the couple is just like, I don't care what they stay or whether they go. I'm going to hear my party and I'm going to dance, and that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
But just understanding what that expectation is, just because if you're just like, well, I'm just going to play whatever they want, okay. But in the same respect, what are they wanting out of the party? And if those two things are going to be contradictory, then you at least have to go like, hey, just be aware if I go too much in this, and Joni might not be sticking around much longer.
Mm-hmm. And in this particular case, that's a great point, Dan. This particular case, we had maybe 10 other people. It had gotten to that. It was a cold night under a tent, and everything what came together is that you had the 10 to 15 that were parents and a couple of close friends who weren't going to dance pretty much no matter what. So we had, in essence, the bulk of it. But if it would be a situation where there were 100 guests standing around, they're going to do exactly what you were saying, Dan, is they're going to come and they're going to shake and thanks and goodbye. It worked for this situation. The other ones, there were more people, and they were requesting between the basically the one of them I did that I was the main lead. They were requesting the wedding party was the ones who were actively requesting, but they were also the ones on the dance floor. They didn't leave, and that was the center of the party. Yes, there were more guests standing or around the outside, but they didn't. They were just enjoying watching the wedding party because we had a group of athletes that were great dancers and could have been on that dance floor for 6 hours straight and probably would have barely broken a sweat. It was the right situations here. Cool. All right, let's jump to question number 2 tonight, guys. All right, question 2 is kind of, we're still in our wedding. We are playing our set, what have you, and it's going over well. How do you know when to change things up, whether you're changing tempo or you're changing complete style of music? What are some of the keys and clues that say, hey, I need to do something different? And of course, we started with Cubbie. So Dan, you're going to start this one off for us.
It depends. It depends. Of course,
No,
that's gotta be our answer tonight,
that's
right?
Tuesday night.
That's tomorrow night's show.
Tomorrow night.
Oh, sorry,
Actually,
sorry, Ben. I didn't mean to take
actually,
your.
he's coming up in 2 more weeks. Ben will be back, and we're going to be live in 2 weeks. By the way.
So if I quote him, put a little footnote.
Yeah. So you can quote him.
Then I'm allowed. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, I think I do think it depends on whether you are how quick you're mixing. I think that's going to be one of the things that comes down to it. So if you're playing 2/3 to full song length, I really think you need to be switching it up by after about the third song. To anything more than 3 songs in a row, and I would even almost go to it's the radio guy in me, I guess, when I think back to my programming days. You just and I'm not saying you have to go a complete left turn, but trying to do something, trying to get out of that same style so that you're appealing to a larger group than what you have there. If you're quick mixing, I think you can go through a different set. You can go through 5 or 6, 7 or 8, depending again how fast it is that you're quick mixing. That's gonna make a big difference to it. And I would also say, I think the question was also like when to change the style. So that's kind of like from the programming standpoint. Obviously, if you're watching your crowd and you're seeing, and as you're mixing in, you're seeing the energy ramp, 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 ramp. Um, you always want to do it one song before the energy drops, right? One song before they're going to lose their steam. And so how do you know when that's going to be? You almost go there before it can. So you change up the style, you look for that other opportunity. But obviously you can go a little longer if you see that they're really responding, but just be aware that sooner or later it's going to be too late. And you're gonna be like, oh, I should have done that one song sooner.
Cubbie, how do you know when to change the song as far as the style of the music or tempo of the music? What do you?
I'd concur with Dan. Three's where you're at if you're short mixing. And I'm talking second chorus out. I'm usually a second chorus out guy. Sometimes I'm not a quick mix into the first chorus. I'm more of a second chorus out. Um, and my third song is actually the transition song. So it might be like a Shabuzi, the bar song, Tipsy, going into club, into like just a whole other 90s vibe, so, or a transition from country, because here in Iowa, Shabuzi, the bar song is considered somewhat country. So it's my transition song to the next genre. Just like kind of another country song to get out of really into like a modern song is Miles on It by Kane Brown and Marshmello. It's still got the country beat, but then you transition into more of a current type vibe. So you can go from country to different styles and genres. If you have that third song as your transition song.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So are you basically, that's just you're set and you're going to do that, or are you reading some clues from the floor? Because Dan mentioned, of course, sometimes you try to get out a song early before you burn them out, but then there's times he rides that rail just a little bit farther, trying to Are there some indicators when you're like, okay, I have a 3-song set planned, but boy, song 2 just killed, and now I want to make it
Yeah.
a longer set?
Yeah, or it's just hitting, and like an emo set. You might go from Bright Side into Blink, or and it's really hitting hard. So maybe go into the 4 song, but you want to push it to 5 because and then you might lose them. That's like way too much. But yeah, like I said, it could be like a genre is starting to hit, so you go a little bit 1 song longer or something. So, like I said, it's kind of situational. And then you put the brakes on. Dan, how many slow songs do you play on an average?
Two, two outside of the spotlight dances. That's probably about it.
And then after like 9, nothing, all gas, no
I
brakes.
mean, it's kind of like it might be one early and then one near the end if it's been kind of agreed upon. That's probably my two outside of my spotlights. Um, yeah, it's really gone away, but it's really kind of gone by the wayside. Yeah.
I'm the same way. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
gonna be too early, but too early in the evening. But when I get them on the dance floor at 9, I'm not letting them off. I'm not letting them off.
I as we're talking about, like, I was talking about more genre changes, but I mean, you did bring up the idea of tempo and Cubby with the talking about the slow songs. You really hit on it. There's one thing I think that's really an important skill for us to kind of keep in the back of our head. It's what I call reloading the dance floor. And I've been having this conversation with my couples a little bit more of reloading it. And what ends up happening is, I'm playing along. I've kind of got that energy, and I went too long. I
Mm.
went too long in that set and I started to lose them. And they've all kind of, oh, hey, I'm going to go get a drink. And too many of them go get a drink all at the same time. Right. And nobody's really come back to replace them. I'll kind of go, okay, you know what? It's time we've got to rethink this. I'll also gauge it by on how many couples I've kind of noticed in the crowd. Right. If I've got a fair number of couples, I'm going to throw a slow song in. It's going to give a tip of the hat to those that are just like, listen, I'm only dancing if it's a slow song. Right. And the nice thing is you brought him back. Now you have another opportunity to throw something that is a multi-generational banger at him and keep them there. And you've reloaded the dance floor. You've already got them. You got them recaptured. Um, and then you can kind of play around with where you go from there. But that's something I kind of keep in my back pocket of, ooh, I went too far. Now I've got to play, for like a better terms, damage control. I have to
Sure.
go another direction with it.
So when I used to play 10 to 15 slow songs a night at a wedding, there was a lot of damage control. Is that what I was doing?
Well,
Yeah,
you
maybe,
know that
maybe, maybe,
maybe,
maybe,
maybe,
maybe.
but no, I think it's important. Like, and I will say, so like the 3 songs, there's a couple sets that I do, um, if I've got the right crowd for it, and I'll just call it like the 90s BPM hip hop. And a lot of you got some old school, you've got some 2000s, you've got a couple-ish current or recurrent type of ones in there. But you can do a lot of like slam quick mixes in and out, coming out of a chorus and slamming into another like hook and really kind of have some fun with that. And I've found that works, and I've gotten away with about 7 or 8 because you get because they haven't heard it for a while, right? And so you just kind of like you get that and then finally you're like, you know what? I think I've got enough of those. I'm going to back off for a bit. Yeah, but it gives you that option to do that. But that I think is kind of an exception, right? Because it's the right feel, and again, if I was playing the whole song, forget it. Even if I was doing after the second chorus, I think it'd be too much.
Sure.
But hook chorus
Boom.
done.
Yeah. And I think that's a skill that I shouldn't say it's not the skill side of it. I think that is a listening experience that is more accepted today than it was 10 years ago, for surely, to be able to do that type of thing. And part of it's because technology has made it so people have experienced it more. Good.
TikTok has.
And TikTok, yes, has definitely made it so people hear that, and they hear the hook, and that's the part that they know. All right, gentlemen, let's jump to the next question tonight. Our next question tonight is about a request that came from a guest, not from the couple, which we kind of talked about in the first question tonight, but a request that comes in from a guest that just doesn't fit into the vibe or even the event. How do you handle letting someone know that their song sucks? saying their song sucks.
Well, sometimes you got to tell them their song sucks. I know I'm up next.
Yeah,
So because they had led last
yep.
time. Sometimes you just gotta let them know I'm sorry, that is just not the vibe they're looking for this evening. That's just not gonna fit with where I'm going. I think Freebird's a great song, but right in the middle of my dance floor is just not gonna happen.
So
I
what?
laugh because that was actually a request about 3 weeks ago at my wedding, and the dance floor was going, and he comes up and he goes, "How about Freebird?" And I went, "No,
Yeah.
because it's too long. No, because nobody's gonna dance to it. Dancing now." So I just wanted to look at the guy and smack him, but I mean, he understood it. Yeah, but I would also say, depends who's asking. I mean, because I'll admit I was blowing my nose. Is this our wedding couple
No,
or is
it's a
this a
guest.
guest?
Guess.
Yes,
Yes.
okay, that makes it a little bit different. Yeah, I'll just kind of go. It's more of like, is it an okay song but not going to fit the vibe? Then I'll go. Let me see what I can do. Let me see if I can fit that in, because the vibe might change a little bit, right? As the night goes on, what started out as we're gonna dance like we're going to the club suddenly becomes we're gonna hang out like we're at the bar, right? Arm in
Sure.
arm, we're singing the songs. Okay, so maybe I could fit it in at that point, right? Because it's a different vibe. But if it's a just sorry, that song is just not going to be danceable. That song is not going to be singable. Like, I'll just tell them I don't have that in my collection. What do you mean you don't have it? It's not really a party song. It's a great song to listen to, but if it's not a song to dance to or just sing along to, I don't have it in there. Oh, my friends sing along to it. I didn't know that before we started tonight. And I've never had somebody before. So I'm sorry, I don't have it. How about something else? And a quick follow up with that. How about something else? Because then it becomes, it's not, I don't want to take your song because I think you're an idiot. It becomes, I just don't think that's a great song. How about we find something else? And a lot of times that can kind of diffuse the situation. As long as you didn't say you're an idiot, what's a different song? That's John's philosophy, and I don't
Yeah,
recommend.
exactly. That's my favorite. It's like first I point and laugh, then I make some weird kind of insulting statement about family members of theirs, and then talk about their ride to school must have been a certain way, and all these things are just really motivational. You know, tough love. Yes, that's what it is. But no,
I will say that the laugh, I've done that accidentally. Like they'll come up and they'll say, and I'll kind of like chuckle, and then I realized I did it, and they were being serious, and
there's a couple of times where someone's made something like Freebird, that type of thing, and you think it's a joke, and it's not.
Yeah. Like
It's
you're
not.
kidding, right? You're like,
Yeah, I'm
I'm
serious,
like,
man. That's a great song. Well, it is a good song, but yeah, most of the time, and the whole concept of killing them with kindness, I think, fits into here, and the guys have mentioned that that way, and try to work with them to find a different solution, whether it's a different song, um,
but
something.
do you want to ask him for a second one if their first one was that bad? I
Well,
mean,
you give them a chance for redemption, and then if they suck twice, then you point and laugh.
all
Yeah,
right.
there's a
Because I'm
point.
saying,
The
no.
point and laugh's got to be there somewhere. Otherwise, what's in it for us?
right.
And Mikey Mike talks about it earlier. He said he got a request for Rush, and that's kind of a good good thought, right? They're a great musical band. They're great listening to type of aspect, but on the dance floor, I don't know. So sometimes when they ask that one, and especially if you go into the I don't have that because this, then it does give them a chance to kind of think about, okay, I can't go that direction. Let me pick a song that maybe will fit, and he might be more likely to have it. And that can be reassuring. But if they ask for a second one and it's just as bad, I'll be like, let me see what I can do. I said, I've got a bunch planned already. Let me see. It's going to be a little bit before I can do it. Give me a bit, and if I can squeeze it in, I will. Um, and then I just don't try if it's that bad.
I'm
I
trying.
listen.
I
I started in radio where I wasn't allowed to pick my own music. Right, like for those of you that don't know, radio DJs do not pick what they play. Maybe mix show DJs, but that's still a sliver of whether they can or not. I did not. I was not allowed to pick. So when somebody would call the radio station to request a song, I had to lie to them through my teeth every time. And so I got very used to doing that. So I don't have a problem doing it now.
Nice to know. Uh, we just point and laugh. Dan just smiles and
Yeah,
smile and
I'm
wave,
honest.
boys. Smile and wave.
That's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
That is not getting played tonight.
yeah, got it going there. All right, let's jump to our next question tonight, guys. So most of us have worked with wedding planners, and I want to talk a little bit, guys, about the process when you are going to be working with a wedding planner, specifically because they've got their itinerary, and there's going to be some things that their itinerary is going to kind of overstep our area in the music programming world. How do you handle coordinating your things that you need to do with wedding planners when you're working with one? And I think Dan, are you starting this round?
Yeah, I think I'm first on this one.
Okay.
I'm spoiled. I'm just gonna say that I'm spoiled. I work with some great coordinators and day of coordinators. Some that are like managers of some venues, and they do the wedding day of coordinating to kind of help out. And they handle everything up until legitimately we hit dinner time, and they go, "Here,
Mm.
it's yours." Like they know, they trust me enough to know that things are going to happen the way that they need to happen. Like they'll kind of help me stay on what we need to do and help me kind of push the couple, because that's a lot of times where we get behind, because I feel kind of nervous going, "Hey, Bobby, Susie, let's go." You know, and they have no problem doing that. So that kind of helps. But for the ones where I've had some of the other difficulties, one of the ways that you can do this and really get ahead is meet with your couples earlier. I cannot stress this enough. I like to meet with my couples 2 months in advance. I have a wedding next month. I met with a couple 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. We sat down, we came up with the itinerary. I gave that to him. I quick typed up the draft itinerary. I sent that to him so that they had something to look at. They went to meet with their venue. They had the itinerary we were going to do that night. So when it came up, "Oh, what do you want to do?" "Well, you know what? We actually already talked with our DJ about this. Here's what we're going to do." And they even told me it made the conversation with their coordinator go so much smoother and faster, because it wasn't a "what do we want to do? Should we do this?" or them necessarily having their ideas. It was, "This is what we talked about, and this is the why we talked about it. This is why this is a good order to do it." Um, and I think that can help. You're still going to have the ones that are like, think they know more than God, right? The ones that think they know about everything, that really only did their own wedding once, 10 years ago, and think that they can do everybody else's for them. Um, and I don't know what you can do with those. I really don't, because they're nothing's going to appease them other than their own way. But for the ones where the ones that have a glimmer of hope is the ones that you reach out to them also, and you reach out to your couple in advance. Beat them to the punch.
Cubbie, what any thoughts to?
No, as I've always shared, I'm just the oldest fish in the pond in my market. So I've been doing weddings since a lot of these planners were probably in grade school. So I mean, longer than they have. And I'm not with a DJ you have to prod. I'm usually prodding them because I'm always taking a couple steps ahead. But as this show is for younger DJs, what you would do, you definitely want to do is you start learning the wedding process. Learn the options that you have. So when you go to your planning meeting, be that resource for your couple so that when you do get to work with a wedding planner, they don't realize that you're the one that has to be prodded and to tell you everything to do. So, but learn the planning process, learn everything you can about events, flows, doing things different. Do you do the first dance after the grand intro? Do you all do together? Why do you want to cut the cake early? What are pros and cons to that? So once again, when you explain things to your couples, you're the resource and it'll help with the planner. As if I was a new DJ, that's what I'd want to hear.
Sure. My experience with working with some wedding planners is that I wasn't either aware that they existed or they weren't available to have a prior conversation. That it was in a couple of cases, it was we got our wedding planners got their timeline, and we'll get a copy of that to you. well, can we kind of go through a little bit what you guys want to do? Our wedding planner's already got it. We did that. And so yes, maybe we could have met earlier to do that. But in one particular case, the couple really didn't want to meet that early. And then the wedding planner, had everything. So this year, when every wedding planner, pretty much I was meeting them the day of, and it's like, okay, now they have an itinerary of what they want to do. And it became a situation. It was like, okay, I kind of got my little notes here that the couple, and I've got your planner here. There's a couple of areas I had some questions, and I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and that I can make this look as flow and look as good as possible. And kind of give me your vision of what you had right here. What was this going on right here? Oh, that was the time to go get the pictures, and there was going to be a few moments where they can go get these really beautiful pictures at this one spot in the golf course, and we wanted to do that. We want to make sure everything's set, but we need to have the music so that the guests are doing this and whatever it is. The idea that I was trying to convey that I want to be able to make their plan as successful as possible. And what do they need? Where do they need me to do things to be as successful as possible? Some respond well to that. Some of them are like, yeah, you just do your job. Okay. And you can't win every conversation. So that's when you laugh and point and call them an idiot. No, that was the other question. I'm sorry. So yeah, it's all over the board. It can be when you're dealing with other entities and planning, especially when they're planning a schedule that you're going to have to be part of. And sometimes you have no input into that schedule. You hope you do, but sometimes you just got to buck that up and do the best you can.
The one thing I would also throw out is, if we were to poll every one of our listeners about the order of events in a wedding reception, you would probably hear 100 different versions of the ways to get through a reception, and each of them could be legitimately 100% correct. And everybody would probably feel that their way was potentially the best way to get through it because it's what they have the most experience with. And so it's okay, well, this works because of this, and this works because of that. And so they make it through. So I would say that, if a planner is giving you the timeline and the order, don't be quick to assume that it is an idiotic plan. Now, if there's an issue, right? Like, as Cubbie said, I've been around the block for enough times. I can foresee some of these issues. Like, maybe potentially, rather than questioning the order, question, during this time that they're out doing this, what's happening for the guests? What's happening for this? How can I help those not involved with XYZ still be entertained and have a part of tonight's show? Do I have the flexibility to do whatever I want during that time because you're off with them doing something else? And take it to them with that question, and then, try and fill in those missing pieces and get those questions answered. And if you can't get them answered, that maybe is another issue of dealing with that particular one. But I think if you open yourself up to going, there is another way to do this. If I ask questions about what could be problems and they can give me an answer, then it's no longer a problem. And we can make it work. We can try and we can make it through work. And worst case scenario, you make it work for the night. You
Exactly.
make it work for the night.
And the key, and this is something I had this conversation with the boys, is that there's going to be things that pop up. There are things that that's not the way we would do it. But ultimately, what we're going to do is you're going to smile. We're going to do it. And nobody on the outside needs to know there was conflict or there's any uncomfortableness. We do things and do it to the best of our ability. So people will be like, that was fun and it was great. And not knowing that it could have been much better if it would have been done our way when those opportunities do arise.
I could tell you a horror story on that one when we get off the air.
I think we all probably have, unfortunately, some of those. All right, let's jump to our next question, guys. The next question, we're talking about kind of bouncing back and forth with the crowd earlier in our show tonight, but let's talk about when you have older guests at the party. How do you keep the older guests engaged and not getting up and leaving, as Cubbie had mentioned earlier, when you've got you've got the energy of you don't want to lose your younger dancers, because your younger dancers are probably going to be there more often than not on that dance floor. But how do you balance that and keep them both sides happy? And I don't remember
How
who.
about your first this time?
Oh yeah. I would have to say thanks. Once again, going back to that three genre, three song set kind of a mentality that you can go like a little September and some of that genre, then roll into like a Uptown Funk, where it all blends, where you sing with the universally popular songs, just multi-generational ones they hear on the radio, TV ads, very popular songs. As long as you think you keep that early on in the evening, you'll be able to keep all guests happy. Um, but it's just he's I know there's sometimes people don't like certain music and like country, and they all want to hear this, and you just got to blend it both together.
So you're saying do mashups of every song?
Yes,
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 a
really,
mash.
and
Yeah,
fast
a
too.
2020 song with a country mashup. No matter what the song is, to throw country over top. That'd work.
Yeah.
Dan.
Uh, first off, earlier I was talking about quick mixing and short mixing and stuff like that, and I think when we're getting into the beginning portion of the night, you don't want to go too hard, too fast on that because your older crowd is not going to necessarily appreciate that the same a younger crowd will. Um, I will often say that I'm not always the best at this because sometimes I want to cater a little too much to the younger crowd. I want to kind of go a little bit too new, too fast
Yep.
because I want them to, recognize that I'm going to play some stuff that's newer, and I want them to kind of be like, okay, he's going to be all right tonight. Because later on in the night, they got to be happy. I got to make sure that I'm because otherwise, then there's nobody on the floor because the old people will leave no matter what. So one of the things though that I think now we kind of luck out because we have a lot of songs that have resurfaced for a younger audience that in 10 years ago only really appealed to some of the older crowd. And I'll use the example of like September. I'll use the example of Dancing Queen. Yeah, you'd have some younger one that would be like kind of vibe along to it, but it was not as widely popular maybe with some of those younger crowds. And so now we kind of have some of those that we can utilize in a key function earlier on where we're going to be able to grab both genre or both groups of people, both groups of dancers in a better light. And so using things like that, using some of those bigger ones, some of the TikTok oldies, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
TikTok songs, but they're older songs, right? Resurfacing, like you can use that to your advantage to appeal to both of those crowds. But again, don't do a verse, chorus, and out. Like give yourself a little bit more breathing room with that. I would also say the energy that you bring with this, and so I'll use this example. My wife's cousin got married in July. We went along as a guest. Now it was a Jersey wedding, and it was a high energy Jersey wedding because I've also found out there's some, not as high energy Jersey weddings. I don't want to say low energy because I don't think those exist, but there is, MC every song all night long. And not saying you need to do that. But one of the things that I noticed was there were songs that were utilized within the first hour, almost 2 hours, that I hadn't played, but you would have thought they were some of the biggest songs ever because how the interaction, how the MC aspect was, and how it brought that song. And there was a lot of energy about the song. There was a lot of energy about the couple. There was a lot of energy about the dancers. And suddenly the old people were on the floor, the young people were on the floor, and everybody thought it was like the greatest song that you'd heard. And it was probably one I hadn't heard in 15 years.
Hmm.
So another direction that you can go is using some of your MC skills to draw everybody in. Now you got to be careful though too, because some of your older crowds, they're not going to respond to an MC.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to respond to a hyping, type of MC. But I think if done with the right flavor and the right energy, you're bringing everybody in together.
It'd be interesting to when you're referring to how they that old song, and they were able to take that song that might have been a forgettable song without, but how they were able to take that and work the room, and then work the presentation of the song to make it something that's, as you say, it's like the greatest song ever all of a sudden.
What was like things like calling out the dance moves, like, hey, let's do those dance moves. Let's see it. Let's see you break it down. And, let's give it up for Patrick and Joni or Joanna. And just like all this, like all night long, just really kind of like, again, if it wasn't the song, if it wasn't a sing along portion of a song or a sing along aspect to the song, it was something about the moves, it was something about the couple, it was something about the parents of the couple, right? Because now they're on the floor and they're making a big deal of the fact that they're on the floor, and everybody in that crowd was feeling like a celebrity because they were either being called out or
Mm.
complimented or brought some energy, or hey, sing it, let's hear it, this is a great time, like, 1 2 3, boom. And it was like, I mean, the guy knew his cues like nobody's business. So he may do the exact same set every night. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. But it was very,
Was it a
um,
two-person set?
was that?
Two-person
Did they have a
set.
Yeah,
DJ?
there was an MC on the floor, there was a DJ who was mixing behind the decks. I that brought some of the energy forward, right? Because they're on the floor, right? You can't go, hey, let me see those dance moves, and you're like 30 feet away. Like that's not going to work. But I think there were some of those skills that you could utilize even if you're behind. You could also, again, you're not necessarily having to quick mix as much in that aspect. So you could boom, hit it, grab what's going to be the next song. You're out on the floor, maybe thinking what's going to be the song that you're going to load when you get back. I mean, that's going to be a lot of thinking and a lot
Yeah,
of,
a lot of prep.
Yeah.
all
A
at
lot of.
once. But if you're set on being a one person show, yeah.
There's possibilities. All right, gentlemen, let's get one more in here tonight. So back in the day, we used to go and kind of fan through our CDs. For this question, basically, what would be your recommendations for organizing your playlist so you can find songs easily when you're doing your events? Short of searching, obviously there's the search functionality, but sometimes you're not sure what you're looking for. How do you have things organized so that you can do a search, not to search for a song that you didn't even know you needed, you wanted? Yeah. However,
So I guess I'm up first. So this comes down to folder structure, and this is something that I, for lack of better terms, hate. Because I've been struggling with this. I've had what was I thought was my plan based upon, back when I burnt CDs because I didn't want to carry everything. So I would make a collection of like pop rock, and I'd make another collection of hip hop, and I'd make another collection of like EDM. And so when I first started my organization, that's the way I kind of did it. And so I would at least kind of have a genre that I wanted to go in, right? And that's what I would jump into, is the folder based on genre. That kind of went by the wayside. So then I started doing by decade. And that helped to a degree because that allowed me to kind of jump genres
mm-hmm.
without, having to be conscious of jumping genres. Now I've kind of gotten to a different set. And I took this is from when Crate Hackers first started. They had shared Joe Bunn's organization, and it's since like disappeared from the software. It's buried somewhere deep that I don't know. But anyway, I saved the PDF, and he has a folder of slow songs. He's got a folder of what he calls party songs, and he's got a folder of dance hip hop. So the party is all of those rockish, oldie type of things, throwbacks, in that. The dance hip hop is that. So I will bounce back and forth between those two to kind of get my feel throughout the night. And then I've got a couple other folders that I kind of go to, like for example, one's like floor starters, one's, a ladies folder, that kind of thing, if I'm looking for something specific to kind of, or a specific need. Um, but that's a lot of what I do, is trying to not be too specific that I almost have to know the song I'm looking for to find it,
Mm-hmm.
but not be too broad where it's one folder and I'm spending 20 minutes trying to find one song.
Cubbie, process
Uh,
for, for finding, you like organizing your music and finding songs quickly.
a lot, just like Dan does, a lot of different folders from genres to pops to BPM. I have a few BPM folders. I also have, but I cheat a lot. I am not gonna lie. I use Virtual DJ, and on the lower left hand corner it has compatible songs. And what it will do is it will tell what songs a beat per minute and mix and key is compatible with the song that you're playing, and then how many times you've played that song. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's gonna hit. If I can look at that list really fast, and be like, oh, this is gonna blend well. This is where I'm gonna go. So it's kind of a cheating thing.
Sure.
Um, but I do have a lot of folders if I do want to, if I want to go off that list, because I'll look at them and go, I'm thinking those are going to hit. So then I'll then do other folders, or I kind of know where I'm going anyway, because I always think 2 songs ahead. Like, where am I going to go that way?
Hmm.
But as a new DJ, as I create my crates as well, for that evening, I have my grand intro song, my cake cutting song. Every song, I have a separate folder for every client, and each song is in there in order of what I need it for. So I have their grand intro song, their cake cutting song, their first dance, father, daughter, mother, son, so that when I don't have to look for it while I'm playing one song. It's right there, and I can load it right up if this is going out to new DJs.
Hmm. Hmm. I find myself, I've got the folders similar to what you guys have been describing, but um, I find myself going and looking actually in the folders, specifically in the promo only, because I've got all of the promo only video, the best of discs in on the hard drive there. And I will, it's like, oh, I'm looking for something from the late 80s. Well, I can go and go look at the best of the 80s disc volume one, from 85 to 89 or whatever it is, because promo only put all those together. And I find myself some of the nights where I'm kind of looking for a hidden gem that I haven't played for a while. I'll go looking in those and see what was actually on that DVD, which of course now is a folder. It's just a weird little thing. And sometimes there's a song that's like, gosh, I haven't played this in a while, and this would fit really well right here. Or there's a section of that song that would work really well to go bounce in and bounce out and such. And just by, it's as close to going and perusing the old CDs or DVDs as we used to do. But I find myself probably about a half a dozen times a year when I'm looking for that song from that era, going to actually the folders and kind of perusing what's in the folder. So the promoonly.com. And when you buy the music videos, you can get all the old music available, and it's legal. Excellent. So we are at 12 minutes to. Do we have enough time for one?
Sure.
I don't want to go there. That one's going to take two. Oh yeah, let's do this. We're going to do one more question. Let's quick do one more.
As far as music or
Yeah,
computer
this is
equipment,
backup plans. We're going to talk about backup plans in this question. The question was, how did you put together? What's your backup plan? What have you put together? Let's just go and kind of give us a quick overview of what your backup plan is in case of failure at your event of any component. What kind of things do you do to give yourself the best chance of success? And I think you
how
started me.
is it me?
I think so.
Sure.
I have 2 computers and a tablet ready to go at all times. Already plugged up. I have a mixer, so if my controller goes down, I can go right in from my mixer to one of my laptops, and be able to mix and go either on autoplay or whatever I have to on that. I've got backup microphones. I've got a wire microphone in case my wireless microphone goes out. I could talk equipment, but I think you got to have double of everything: 2, 3 cords, an extra microphone in case something happens, a wired mic in case your wireless goes down, a couple different backup plans for laptops and tablets, and where you're going to go with it. And a backup mixer ready to go in case your controller craps out on you or stops reading and things. There's all sorts of different plans for backups.
Yeah, so mine kind of similar. I don't have 2 computers technically. I've got one computer and I've got my iPad hooked up with an XLR that goes into not my controller but goes into my mixer that I have. And I do that so that if my mixer happens to go down, that iPad can physically be plugged into one of the other jacks in the back of the it evolved 50s or even my EKXs. Like they had the extra port. Boom. It's just instead of
Mm-hmm.
plugging in there, I'm going to plug in there. And that's going to get that speaker going for a little while. Or while I kind of figure out whatever's going on with the main system. If my computer completely goes down and is not able to run, my ceremony computer can be used as a backup for it. If I absolutely need a controller and for whatever reason, and that one goes out, my ceremony controller is the little DJ to go too. So I could use that if I needed to go from there. So I've got, again, as Cubby said, backup for everything, along that pathway, from beginning to end is ready to go. Some of the stuff is hooked up immediately. Some of it's within reach, while what is the immediate fix is running. So, like I said, if the computer completely goes down, the iPad's running. The iPad wouldn't necessarily get me through the whole night, so the ceremony computer would. But that's going to take time to grab and hook it.
What I would do with some of the things we do have multiples of at the show, but the thought is having a plan for when something goes down. What's the workaround? And it's all about workarounds. Is really how we viewed it, which is kind of what Dan is referring to. Yeah, we have multiple things, but it's what is going to be the quickest way to work around an issue, whether it's the controller going down or whether it's a microphone going down, whatever it is. Having that workaround plan and then testing your workaround plan. Because sometimes if it's like, oh, one of my workaround plans is to go from my laptop straight out of the headphone jack on my MacBook Pro and into the first speaker and then have sound. Well, it can work, but you should practice it once to realize that you've got to do some reversing of some wires to make it really work and work well. So having a plan and then practicing the workarounds, I think, is a big part of the success of that. So. Okay, now we've got to wrap it up because, we've got the chill room coming up next. DJNTV.com/chill. Tomorrow morning was going to be video number 4 in my 5-part, and I'm going to have to apologize because I did not shoot video number 4. I got busy with other stuff today. I was chainsawing all weekend. It was great. It was fun. So next week will be number 4, and then the week after will be number 5, which will be the week that we kick off our fall schedule with a brand new Tuesday night with Ben Stowe, a Tuesday night Big Daddy show, and then a Wednesday night. There's going to be another show on Wednesday night. Casey Kokoris from the Marquee Show is going to be doing an interview show on Wednesday nights here. We've got about a 6-week between our start and before the holidays. So we're going to be adding those things for a few weeks there for you. So you guys can have some Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday content coming to you here in the early winter. So I think, Dan, it's time to take it home.
All right. Well, thank you very much for taking time to join us tonight. Hopefully we answered your question or maybe gave you a whole bunch more. So if that's the case, send it to John and we'll be able to hit them up the next time that we go around. But we hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful time. Eat lots of candy for Halloween, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.